fluently because it's in Bahasa, but it's 474 pages, so it's a lot of reading, and it's literally starts from the very beginning, from 40s when Ukrainian delegation first raised the issue of Indonesia before the Security Council of the United Nations. So, and since then, during the so-called Soviet period, Right. The situation in Ukraine has been developing in a very dramatic and tragic way. In the recent month, I think the Russians have chosen the pure way of terror because every strike they make on Ukrainian cities, villages and everything, they mainly aim at the infrastructure like electricity, water supplies, drainage, like anything that could damage the life of the people. So basically, now in the capital of Ukraine, my family is all there, like my family is living in Kiev. And now I called my wife, called my children, called my mother, and I said, okay, yeah, well, today we had just 5 hours of electricity supplies. Yesterday it was like 6 hours, tomorrow it might be 2 hours of electricity supplies, and we're still in summer, right? So it's still warm. In winter it will be a problem because it will be very cold, and the central heating system will depend on that. So basically this is a way of terror. Create the conditions that people will not be able to survive in. That's what's going on in Ukraine, basically every day. I'm not talking even about the bombardments by bombs and by shells. But in the parallel ways, we are trying to develop, to build up the mechanism, international mechanism, that will bring peace back to Ukraine. What's important here is that I know many countries, including Indonesia, are very much concerned about the situation in Palestine, about Gaza, and everything that's happening there. My president mentioned during the peace conference in Switzerland that the metrics, the models they are building up in this conference can be applicable to any regions, zones influenced by war or conflict. That's very important for us.
Mr. Ambassador, how do you see the absence of the Russian on the summit regarding the progress of the peace flow between both countries? Do you feel optimism about that?
To be brief, I think that neither Russians don't see their place and don't see the way how they can participate in this conference meanwhile. Nor the civilized world sees the way they can be present at this conference. How, in what capacity can they're representing what? Would they be representing the aggressor, like aggressor who is like, today we're talking and tomorrow we are like bombarding Ukrainian cities? Is that the way you participate in the peace negotiations or something related to peace? I remind you something, maybe many people forgot, but during the G20 summit in Bali, there are 2 days of summit, right? So the first day ended, and President Joko Widodo mentioned like, let's stop the war. Let's stop the war. We are, well, our gathering here is about also, among others, is to put the end to the war, right? So the first day ended, and during the night, Russians launched over 100 missiles onto the civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. It was the most massive attack on Ukraine since the beginning of the war. In what capacity would we see the Russia to participate if they behave like that? I remind, that was during the Bali G20 summit. It happened in November 2022. Can anyone think about what changed since then? In principle, nothing changed. Russians bombard Ukraine every day, bombs, shells, missiles, drones that like really destroy our infrastructure, kill our people. in what capacity would they appear in the conference? So I repeat, the way they can be accepted by the world community at the peace conference is in the way that they are forced to do so, or they deliberately decided to stop the killings, to stop the bombings.
It seems there's no goodwill for Russia to make the peace.
Russians don't want peace. Russia proved through the last, Russia proved it through the last few centuries and through the last few years, and especially through the last 2 years and a half, that they don't want peace. It's not the purpose of Putin or his government. It's not the purpose of Putin. His purpose is Ukraine and then Europe, and then building up a new world order where Russia will be sitting as a dictatorship, as a one of the ruling powers. That's the aim of Russia, of Russia's regime. They don't want peace.
Regarding the proposal from Pak Prabowo, the President-elect of Indonesia, that he proposed the peace proposal to Ukraine, how do you see it? We're talking about in the last 2 years, perhaps this is the first breakthrough from Indonesian gesture about the peace in Ukraine.
Right. Actually, it's last year. So this proposal were made last Shangri-La dialogue, in Singapore last year. So there are a few moments I want to draw your attention to. Right. We do not judge the efficiency of the proposals just based upon 5 minutes speech of anyone. Because what Prabowo did last year was the proposal for discussion. He created his own platform for discussion, or I would put it the other way, he contributed significantly into the discussion on the general human platform. So he just contributed into dialogue, into building up the international discussion, international dialogue, international building up a peace process, peace mechanisms. And I repeat, he was the only one high official representing Indonesian government, or not representing Indonesian government, but he was a high governmental official that ever mentioned the problem that exists with regard to Russian aggression in Ukraine. That's what happened. And I'm extremely grateful.